how to create a colourful grid in Photoshop. I'm using CC 220, 219 is fine as well. All these grids are created on new layers, just makes it easy to work with. And the grid is created using a pattern, and this is a pattern source. A pattern source can be anything. I'm going to be using shapes, but it can be a brush stroke, maybe an image, up to you. The documents I'm using, 2000 by 2000, white background, and the pattern document is 1000 by 1000 with a transparent background. I'm using a shape, so go to the rectangle tool and select shape, going to be filled with grey. So just drag it across the screen, just create a very basic rectangle, a vector design. And then what you can do, you can go to layer and layer styles, the layer menu and layer styles, and maybe add a stroke, maybe add a drop shadow. I think drop shadow is quite nice. It gives it a bit of depth, but up to you. You can add multiple drop shadows as well. You can change the distance, spread, size, etc. Once you're happy with the design, click OK. Now go to Edit and Define Pattern. Give it a name, click OK. Now go back to the original document. And the key thing here is a layer. Always create a layer because then you can turn it into a smart object very easily. So layer, new layer, and then edit and fill. Contents, set to pattern, go to custom pattern, the one you just created. And go with script on. Make certain script is always on. Photoshop does have a tendency to deselect it. Set it to symmetry fill. Click OK. You can see the grid. Preview, fairly okay this time in this one. Sometimes the preview doesn't exactly match the end result. Set the scale fairly small. I'd say about 0.4, 0.3. Also use number 26 in the symmetry type. Once you've done all that, the key sliders are the width and height. Just change those, just vary them. And as you vary them, you can see the grid will change. You might like that grid. You might want that grid, so you can use that grid. You can use that setting. You can change the height and it will change again. So a variety of different grids can be created by simply changing the height and width. The colour randomness is set to 1. Don't have to do that. You could have it just grey. You could have it the original document. The colour. Also brightness randomness, you can set that to 1 so you can vary the brightness. I personally always like the colour randomness to be set fairly high. If you want a colourful grid, that's going to be the way to do it. And you can see the grid in the preview. If you're happy with that, then click OK. And the source design doesn't have to be a rectangle. It can be anything. And I'm going to create one in a sec that's made out of custom shapes, a person. But you can vary it. You can make it all kinds of custom shapes, all kinds of other layers very easily. And you can always vary it. You can always go back again. You can always undo. And you can always go back into the edit and fill and just change the settings. So if you get something you're not happy with, just go and change it. It doesn't take too long just to quickly experiment with the settings. It's a pity you can't preview and zoom into that. Or have a preview on the artboard itself. But that doesn't work that way. So there's your grid. So you've got a very nice colourful grid there with greens and red, pinks. You can always also, it's a layer. You can turn it into a smart object and then you can recolour it. So you can go to the image menu then and adjustments. Maybe add a colour lookup or use hue. Also, you can apply filters. So you can go to filter menu, maybe add something like that, just a quick wave, and you can vary the wave in all kinds of ways, or other distortions. You can also go to edit and transform and warp. And you can vary the warp of that grid in all kinds of ways. And you can find out more about the transform and warp on other videos on the Graphic Extra channel. Once you've done that, press return. You can also then go to layer menu, layer style, and drop shadow. Or maybe just a colour overlay, up to you. It's got a nice shadow effect there. Now to create a new grid. Again, layer, new layer. Go back to the source document for the pattern. And it can be made up of multiple shapes as well. So you make 3 or 4 different shapes, or maybe vary the shapes, or maybe make a person shape. So go to the custom shape tool. Again, it's a shape layer. So it's a vector design. You can modify it. Select one of those shapes, but you could create another shape, maybe a different person, or maybe duplicate that design and vary it, or maybe use the curvature tool to modify the design. There's hundreds of ways you can do. Maybe create a design with a gradient in it. Now I can select both of those, go to the layer menu, and then smart objects, and convert to smart object. Once you've done that, go to layer and layer style and stroke. And then drop shadow as well. You don't need to add those, of course. I'm just adding those. For example, click OK. Now go to Edit and Define Pattern. And you can also define the pattern via the Patterns panel. Now create the grid using that. So again, go to Layer menu and New Layer. So you've got a new layer. That's the key thing. Then go to Edit and Fill. Remember to change the custom pattern, because if you don't, it's going to be still the old one. Change that, and then make certain the script is on, because Photoshop does deselect occasionally for some weird reason. Click OK. And again, you've got your grid there. You'll probably have to vary it because the size has changed slightly, and it's going to be slightly different. So modify it. Move the width, heights, the scale. And again, once you click OK, if you don't like the end result, because the preview doesn't match exactly what you think it is, you can always undo and then run it again and just tweak the value. I'm just going to click OK. Again, color randomness is set high, but you can vary that. Again, the key one, 26. And then you've got your design there. Now it's not perfect. It's not exactly what I wanted, because you can actually now see two layers of. You can undo again. And of course, what you can do, you can apply these fills numerous times to numerous layers. And you can combine the layers. So make 3 or 4 different grids. Combine those grids. Again, you can vary the source pattern and then combine those. Combine them all into a smart object. And then you can, of course, go back and vary the design in all kinds of ways later. Again, change the scale. Click OK. And then you've got the end result there. And it's a layer. So what you got with a layer, again, like I say, you can duplicate it. You can also turn it into a smart object. So go down to Layer menu, Smart Objects, Convert to Smart Object, apply filters or adjustments, recolour it by the Image menu. But also you can go to Edit and Transform, Warp, or in this case, Distort, and just distort the design. So you can create a different design there. Maybe go to the 3D menu and turn it into a 3D design. So you can create a 3D grid. I hope you found this tutorial of interest. Please subscribe to the Graphic Extra channel. Always adding new tutorials about Photoshop, Illustrator and many others. Please add a comment or two. That's always appreciated. A dislike or like. Thank you much.